Dark Tranquillity just released their 13th studio album, Endtime Signals. I was a little bit skeptic about this one when I saw it was coming out, because let's face it, after 30 years of making albums, what new stuff can they be bringing out? Can they reinvent themselves, or do they just recycle? On the other hand, I saw them live last week and I was quite impressed. So in this video I'm gonna tell you about my first impressions, the standout tracks, how the band performs on this album, and finally give my pros, cons and rating. Now, Dark Tranquillity is one of the foundation bands of the Gothenburg melodic death metal scene, along with In Flames and At the Gates. And they've kind of been shaping the genre for over the past 3 decades. Following their last album Moment that came out in 2020, the band went through some lineup changes. They brought in a new drummer, Joachim Strandberg Nilsson, and a new bassist, Christian Jansson. Now, these sort of things are bound to make an impact on a band, but if there are any bands in the world that know lineup changes well, that's the Gothenburg scene. They've been dealing with people coming and going all the time. But sometimes fresh faces bring fresh air, and that might be the case with this album. The first song, Shivers and Voids, sort of eases you into the album. It starts with like a haunting intro, guitar intro, and then kicks into a little bit more familiar territory somehow. But you immediately, on the first listen of this song, you realize, okay, there is quality here. The second song, Unforgivable, just kicks it up a gear somehow, and it shows how well this band can actually mix pace and aggression with their melodic elements. And on this song, the guitar work from Johan Reynolds is just amazing, both the leads and the guitar solos. The third song on this album, Neuronal Fire, I'm really struggling with pronouncing this. It has a super cool dramatic intro somehow, but tones it down and goes into a very melodic stuff in the verses, and that's really, really cool. I really like this song. It's one of my favorites of the album. And this is a song that kind of shows you that it wouldn't be anywhere close to where it is if it wasn't for the keyboards. And on that subject, as I said, I just saw them live recently. You can actually check up where I ranked them here, and they ended up very high in my ranking of Brutal Assault Festival. Part of that was that this whole keyboard thing, it just adds a completely different dimension and atmosphere to the playing, and I was very impressed with that. But yeah, back to the album. There is also some stuff on here that is maybe a little bit less out of the playbook, let's say. For example, a song called One of Us Is Gone. It's a very kind of atmospheric, immersive song. It uses cello and violin. Mikael Stanne sings clean vocals on there. Great song, really kind of dramatic, and yeah, it's emotional. I get goosebumps now when I talk about it. And Stanne does that throughout the album. He mixes in clean vocals really nicely, but in a different way. It's not like in metalcore where I don't know why they even have it there sometimes, but in this, it just builds some tension and release and gives the album a kind of a gothic vibe. And there are even moments here that gives me kind of this kind of Depeche Mode vibe somehow, and I love that. I mean, I love Depeche Mode. It's a guilty pleasure for a metalhead. But my absolute favorite song of the album is A Bleaker Sun. It has just this amazing drive and energy. You know, the drums and the bass in the background really kind of drive that song somehow. And then on the breakdown, the soloing there is just out of this world. It gives me this Pink Floyd vibe somehow. Now, the production and mixing here is just amazing. It's this guy, Jens Bogren. He's done Rotting Christ, Baby Metal, Marty Friedman, Dark Tranquillity, and a lot of other bands. I mean, he's been all a Powerwolf. But what I love about this is that everything has a space. It's immersive somehow. It really kind of surrounds you, the sound, but nothing takes over from the other. Everything has its space somehow. And, you know, he tones up the keyboards and then tones them down to give the guitar and then the drums. And then, you know, like it's amazing stuff. Now, before I get into the rating, I just put an affiliate link in the description and the first comment below so you can actually order this album and have it in your home within a few days. This album is in some way familiar, but it also brings something new, and I personally find this a much more interesting album than the last one. Parts of the album kind of sucked me in right away on the first listen, but I think if I would have rated it after just one listen, I would have actually just given it 7.5 out of 10. The pros of this album is that it's very atmospheric. It builds up tension in a very nice way by all the interplay that is going on here. The guitar work is just perfect. The keyboards add a very different dimension to this band without overshadowing anything else. And as I said, the mix, the production is very, very good, the clarity, and it's immersive. It just really takes you in. And last but not least, the singing from Mikael Stanne. It's just amazing how he uses the clean vocals, and his growling is just, he's one of the better singers in the business. Now, the cons of this album, I think the overall listening experience might have been better if it would have been like 2 songs shorter maybe. And one could criticize it for staying too much close to a familiar territory, but this is what the band wanted to make, and I think if they would have gone too far away, we would be pissed off. So I'm actually ending up giving this album 8.5 out of 10. If you're still awake at this point, I'll be very happy if you'd like this video, and you could subscribe to my channel also, because I do album reviews, I do concert reviews, and I do interviews. And on the topic of good death metal albums, then this here is an album that I actually think might end up being one of the best death metal albums of 2024. Check this video here.